Situated somewhere between mystic and martyr, rebel and myth, priestess and warrior, Queen Nanny of the Maroons occupies one of the few positions recognized as a Jamaican national hero. Queen Nanny, or Granny Nanny as she was affectionately called, has largely been ignored by historians who have given more of their focus to male figures in Maroon history. Despite being mentioned only 4 times in written historical text, and usually in somewhat derogatory terms, Queen Nanny is held in the highest esteem among the Maroons. She was the spiritual, cultural, and military leader of the Windward Maroons. Queen Nanny's legacy lies in the fact that she guided the Maroons through the most intense period of their resistance against the British between 1725 and 1740. There are contradicting reports of Queen Nanny's arrival in Jamaica. One report states that she arrived from the African tribe of either Ashanti or Akan as a free woman, perhaps with slaves of her own. The most consistent reports state that she was sold into slavery with her family, who were brought across the Middle Passage and delivered to the plantations of St. Thomas Parish, Jamaica. As a child, Queen Nanny strained under hard labor in the sugar fields until she and her brothers escaped into the Blue Mountains. Nanny, along with her brothers, Agapong, Cudjo, Johnny, and Kwai, became known for their bravery in leading the Maroons in resistant rebellion against the British ruling over Jamaica. Queen Nanny escaped into the mountainous landscape of Jamaica and was instrumental in forming a community of free women, men, and children which became known as the Maroons. Maroon was originally a term that referred to runaway farm animals, mainly cattle. Soon the term spread throughout the region to identify slaves who had successfully escaped from the plantations of the whites. Therefore, the Maroons in Jamaica were a problem for the colonists. From the time the British seized Jamaica from the Spanish in the middle of the 17th century, wars were fought over the capture and control of Maroons. The core of the Maroon settlement was the valuation of women and their contribution to Maroon survival. Since women played such an integral role of Maroon development in strategic battle defenses, it is no surprise that one of the most famous Maroon leaders to emerge from the pages of history is a woman. By 1720, Queen Nanny had taken full control of the Blue Mountain rebel town, which was later named Nanny Town. Even though images depict her as a young black woman, Queen Nanny was a small, wiry woman with piercing eyes who was probably in her 60s. Both legends and documents refer to her as having exceptional leadership qualities. Queen Nanny was particularly skilled in organizing the guerrilla warfare, and her military genius was unparalleled. For example, Queen Nanny incorporated the use of camouflage, using branches and leaves wrapped around warriors' bodies to blend in with the environment. She instructed her soldiers to stand as still as possible so that they would resemble trees. Another military strategy was a communication system based on the cadences of drums and abangs, also known as horns, which were unintelligible to the enemy. The knowledge of Queen Nanny's spiritual beliefs also provided an element of psychological warfare, which struck terror in the hearts of the enemy. There are many legends told of Queen Nanny. One story is of a huge cauldron of boiling liquid that she strategically placed on a mountain trail on the way to Nanny Town. The pot was said to be boiling, even though there was no fire beneath the pot. British soldiers approaching would curiously look inside and die. Each soldier coming up the single file path would meet with the same end, except for the last one, who Queen Nanny would save. The last soldier was sent back to tell his general what he witnessed. Contemporary historians maintain that the pot contained special herbs with anesthetic properties. Being a skilled herbalist, Nanny prepared the cauldron, knowing as the soldiers approached, they would inhale the vapors and become drugged to their death. The most famous legend about Queen Nanny takes place during 1737, at the height of the Maroon resistance against the British. Queen Nanny and her people were near starvation. When she was on the brink of surrendering to the British, she heard voices from her ancestors telling her not to give up and wait one more day. When she woke up the next morning, she found 3 pumpkin seeds in her pocket, which she planted on the hillside. Within a week, the seeds grew into large plants loaded with pumpkins that provided much-needed food for the starving community. To this day, one of the hills near Nannytown is known as Pumpkin Hill. It was said that Queen Nanny could turn into an invisible bird to spy on the enemy and strike them from a distance. Some reports state she wore bracelets and anklets made from the teeth of British soldiers. Mystery even surrounds Queen Nanny's death. It is commonly believed that she met an untimely death at the instigation of the British in 1734. Other accounts say that she died in 1750 of old age. Queen Nanny of the Maroons is the kind of character one sees in modern-day action movies or reads about in a superhero comic strip, except for 2 differences. She was a black African female and a real person. Her intelligence, strength, confidence, mysticism, and guerrilla warfare strategies were far from fiction. Queen Nanny is described as a physically small but powerful woman with the courage to hold back British armed soldiers, lead slave rebellions, and build a healthy community. She was credited with being the single figure who united the Maroons across Jamaica and played a major role in the preservation of African culture and knowledge. The government of Jamaica declared Queen Nanny a national heroine in 1975, and a memorial was erected. Her portrait is on the 500 Jamaican dollar bill, which is colloquially referred to as a nanny. The Windward Maroons, with Queen Nanny as their leader, are role models for resistance, rebellion, and survival. Queen Nanny herself is a symbolic figure for all those who suffer from oppression. National heroine Queen Nanny stands out in history as the only female among Jamaica's national heroes. Therefore, Queen Nanny is the true Queen of Jamaica.